Hello, today's the 9th of November 2024. This is going to be an update and roundup video of what happened in the past week, and I am more concentrated on actually the good things that happened and the progress I made and the changes I noticed in myself. Beginning with how I felt very nervous about teaching the 14-15-year-olds on Tuesday evening. So basically I was already nervous over the weekend to teach them, and I'm always kind of a bit nervous before it actually gets to the point of teaching them. But this time, because I also knew that next week I was gonna have to teach them by myself because Amy and Dad are in Ireland. Basically, over the weekend I already had these thoughts in my head that were just very panicked, and I didn't know if I could handle it. And it was like, first of all, hypervigilant thoughts, so like really focusing and zooming in on a problem without seeing the rest or what's around it. And then also kind of paranoid thoughts from the past, like falling in love with someone I'm not supposed to fall in love with, or being judged for it, or like not being able to handle my own thoughts and emotions, going crazy, like being judged by them, not having a great work prepared, not teaching them well enough, maybe not knowing a meaning of the words that maybe they might ask me what it means and I don't know, like just embarrassing myself and not being able to handle the thoughts about that, beating myself up, blah blah blah. I was just thinking about it, and yeah, it was very anxious. On Monday then, during work, even though while I was in work I was fine, but before work on Monday I was still kind of anxious. But once actually Tuesday arrived, I actually didn't feel that anxious. And I kept, doing the work from the Thrive program, asking myself questions. Do I need to brood about this? Because I was really thinking about it intensely. Do I need to brood about this? My thoughts aren't facts. Like, I've handled this before, I can do it again. There's an answer to all of this. I really tried to help myself, and it definitely helped to some extent, for sure. And I could handle it much better than I could in the past. Yeah, once Tuesday hit, I actually kind of felt confident enough. Once we were in work, the first class we had were 10-year-olds. And me and Amy had a proper conversation with specifically two of them. So one of them is great at English, and he can have a full-on conversation with us. And the other one, he's basically known for being the bully and the bad guy in their public school. The school me and Amy are working at is a private school for just extra English classes, so they come to us after they finish the public school. Yeah, basically that guy is known for being the bully, and he says bad words in class. He says sexual words. He's very attention seeking as well, so if you don't give him attention or do the work with him, he just starts talking and is very loud in class and blah blah blah. And the last few weeks I was always sitting beside him during the classes, and Amy was teaching the rest, or Amy was helping them while I was focusing on the bully. And when I actually gave him attention and really focused on him and did the work with him, I noticed how he was actually very smart, and he was actually very quiet and calm, concentrated on the work, doing his work, and actually quite nice as well. He wasn't unfriendly to me or whatever. The 10-year-old that's able to speak English also told us how the bully's father is treating him very badly, so apparently he hits him as well and things like that. So obviously we don't know 100% if that's really true or if he's exaggerating or whatever, but it does make sense because people don't just turn out to be bullies. Like, there's always a reason for it. So it would make sense, and basically the bully kind of grew on me and he kind of has a soft spot in me now, because first of all, I felt so sorry for him that he feels like he needs to bully in order to sort of feel better himself, or to cover up his own pain, or make people feel the pain that he feels. And also I noticed how he's actually very smart, very quiet, very like concentrated once he really puts the effort in. And yeah, anyway, that day then, the one who can speak English told us another story about what the bully did. And basically I just started asking questions to the bully, but the one who was able to speak English always had to translate it for me. And then the bully's answer was translated by the English speaking one to me. So Amy talked in between and had some questions too, but I was mainly the one talking. And I just asked questions like, why do you bully? What do you think those people feel? Do you feel good when you bully? Do you like bullying? Do you like who you are when you bully? Do you want to bully people? All of those questions. And at first he was always like, I don't care what people feel. I don't really care. It's just funny. Like it's just funny. And then in my mind, I was the whole time like, oh, he cares 100%, and he just has to pretend like he doesn't, because his own pain is so hard to bear. So that's why he pretends like he doesn't care, but in reality he cares so much. That's why he's so hurt, and that's why he bullies. And the funny thing is, I was in a class when I was in school, in secondary school, a class full of bullies. They were all bullies, all, in my opinion, very mean and evil people. So I was terrified of bullies. I was terrified to leave my house because I thought the whole world was the way the people in my class were. So I was like, the world is scary. I'm never leaving the house. I'm never going out. I'm never going to find friends. I was terrified of people like that. It's interesting now that I guess because of this big age gap, and because I'm above him, even though I don't want to say that, but I'm his teacher, so he knows he has to respect me. But I guess because of that, because there is a gap between us, a big distance between us, I'm not scared of him, and I'm actually really interested to like see where this is coming from, to learn like his psychology and like what's going on in his head. And I know there's a good reason for all of that, and I know he can absolutely stop and turn out to be the nicest person on earth. So basically I asked these questions because I was so interested in it, and I also saw the absolute potential that he has to turn out or to be a good person, a nice person. So yeah, when I specifically asked, do you like who you are when you bully, I could see that as soon as the translator translated it, the bully's face changed and got more serious. Before that he was like giggling and laughing and whatever, but then his face actually changed. I could see he was thinking about it and actually immediately answered with no. So I saw in that moment the big potential he has. Even though maybe he just said no to like shut me up and he didn't want to hear any further. But I saw he was thinking about it. And I noticed that if he would truly and really think about everything that we talked about in that class with him, he had such a good and big chance to decide to be a good person. He absolutely has that potential. And it's funny, I don't know for how long we talked for, but we basically completely ignored the work we were supposed to do with them and just concentrated on this. And this is the reason I wanted to become a teacher since I was young. Teaching was my childhood dream. And I feel like the true teaching that I'm supposed to do in my life is this, like through my videos, teachings about life, not school stuff. But this is the reason why I always wanted to become a school teacher when I was younger. It was to help people like that, to show them a way they can live and the potential they do have, and how, it doesn't have to be the way it is for them. So it was an absolutely lovely conversation, I really have to say. The one who translated it for us, he's a very, very nice guy, and he was bullied himself, he said, and he doesn't like when people bully. He always tells the bully to like stop talking or stop saying those bad words or listen to the teacher, blah, blah, blah. But the last and main thing I wanted the bully to know was that he has a choice. Every time he bullies someone, it is his choice that he made to hurt another person. It is his choice that he made to bully someone else, to laugh at them, sneer at them, hurt them, whatever. It is his choice. And he can choose to be a nice person or an unkind person. And I feel like he never really thought about that, because when you are driven by your pain, it feels like you don't have a choice and you act impulsively and just automatically bully and don't think about, wait, is this actually something I really want to do or need to do, or, is this actually something that is good for me to do? And I feel like when I said that, he actually, looked inside himself and thought about that. And when you really think about that, you can see all the choices that you do have, and you don't have to bully people. You don't have to be an unkind person. But every time you do, it is the choice that you made to be an unkind person. It's the choice he made to hurt someone else. So yeah, I feel like that was such an important lesson for him and for me. And I learned so much about the way his mind works and his psychology and stuff. It was so interesting. And the only reason he's really bullying is because he's trying to escape his own pain and his own suffering. And he doesn't want to be alone in that, and therefore needs to inflict pain on other people to not feel so alone. But yeah, first of all, that was so lovely, and that really, really boosted my confidence. And then when the older class approached the 14-15-year-olds, I felt so much more confident already. And then our boss came into the classroom and kind of explained a bit of grammar to our class, and because me and Amy, we don't really know the grammar rules, and we weren't expected to know them. We don't need to know them for this job. But basically the students had a test the next day, and our boss just wanted to explain them a bit of the grammar in English and blah blah blah. And while she was explaining that, I was getting very nervous that she was gonna ask me questions about the grammar rules, or ask me what the answer is, or ask me to explain it to them. So I was first of all, becoming hypervigilant, so focusing in on the potential threat. Focusing in on, I don't know this, and how embarrassing if she asks me and I'm just gonna have to say I don't know, and how embarrassing because I'm a teacher and the students are gonna know that I don't actually know the grammar rules to English and stuff. So yeah, I was like very hypervigilant in that moment, and my posture was very stiff, and I was like looking out for the threat and trying like not to look at her in moments where she was facing my direction so that she wouldn't ask me any questions. And like I was focusing in on the conversation so I could maybe kind of find out what the grammar rules are, and what if she asked me a question, like I need to be focused on that, I need to find out what the answer is. So like I don't know what it's called, like I don't know, I guess like hypervigilant. I was like focused on the potential threat, and like already kind of beating myself up that I don't know the answer and how embarrassing, and I was like getting very anxious. When I noticed these thoughts, I asked myself questions like, do I really need to be anxious about this? Does it really matter if she asks me a question and I don't know the answer? Like, is it really that big of a deal to become so anxious and so hypervigilant just because she could ask me a question about the grammar and I will have to say, oh, I don't know, and then the whole class will know that I don't know? Is it really that big of a deal? And does it really matter that I don't know the answer? Does it really matter? And is it really that embarrassing if I would have to say, I don't know? So I was like, do I need to be this anxious right now? Do I need to worry about it? Do I need to brood about it? Do I need to beat myself up for this? And the answer was clearly no. There is no need whatsoever to worry right now. She's gonna ask me, she's gonna ask me, she's not gonna ask me, she's not gonna ask me. So what's the point in worrying? And I just so clearly noticed that I do not have to be anxious, and it does not matter that I don't know the grammar rules. Like, it's not that big of a deal. If she would ask me the question, I would just say, I don't know, and that's the end of that. And it doesn't matter. It's okay for me to not know that. And even if I would get embarrassed, or if I didn't know the answer, I would be able to handle that, and I would be fine, and I would live on, and my life would go on. So in that moment, when I just really realized there's no need for me to be anxious right now, and it's okay that I don't know the grammar rules, it doesn't matter that I don't know them, and if she asks me the question, I'm just gonna say, I don't know, and it's okay to not know that. I'm not expected to know that, and it's okay. I'm the only one who has that expectation of myself. In that moment, I could feel how my mind and my emotions were just calming down so much, and I could feel my entire posture in my body becoming so relaxed and so at ease. And then I didn't like hyper-vigilantly, I don't know if that's a word, focus in on the conversation she was having with the students and trying to figure out what they were talking about. I just leaned back onto the desk, looked around the classroom, looked at her, and there was not a single worry in my mind. And that made me feel so confident, boosted my whole self-esteem. And she didn't ask me questions. It was all fine, and when she left the classroom and we returned to the work we had planned with the students, I noticed as well how, like, every week that we had this class, I always doubted if the work we had prepared was good enough, if they're actually learning English, if we're teaching them well enough. I felt like we weren't really explaining the work, but kind of just handing out the worksheets, letting them do it, and then afterwards going through it with them, but never really explaining the grammar rules because we just don't know it. So I just kept doubting if this is good enough, and if in that class specifically, I was like, oh, I don't think that I'm good enough of a teacher. I feel like someone else should be doing this job because I'm not really teaching them. But then that day, after I had challenged my thinking, observed my thoughts, and boosted my confidence and self-esteem, I actually didn't doubt myself. I didn't doubt the work I had prepared for them. I just handed out the worksheets, I was like, they're still learning English. All of them are still here in school and coming to this school because they obviously feel like they're learning something and they're getting somewhere. And like, it's not like we're just speaking like German with them and they're not learning any English. Like, obviously they're learning English, they're doing their work. We're not expected to know the grammar rules, so it's not our fault that we can't teach them the grammar rules. So like, in that moment I was like, the work is fine, like they're learning stuff. Don't put so much pressure on yourself, woman. Like, relax. You're like, even if they have a not so good teacher for a while, which is me, they'll still survive. Like, they're still learning, like, whatever. And I didn't even call myself a not good teacher. Like, in that moment, I didn't doubt. I was like confident that the work is fine and, you know, they're still learning something. So yeah, anyway, that was such a nice, new and lovely experience. Yeah, like, it's both of those experiences, the one with the 10-year-olds and the class with the 14, 15-year-olds. Okay, and then the next challenge I had put on myself that week was quite a big challenge as well. And at first I was extremely nervous and anxious, but that didn't actually last for such a long time. So basically, I knew I was gonna have to drive back from the airport by myself because Amy and Dad were going to Ireland. So on Thursday, which was 2 days ago, they left for Ireland. So we drove to the airport and I drove back. And so I asked my friend Mario if he wanted to come with me because I felt just a bit safer in the car if someone else was there in case something happened. But I knew also if he would have said no to coming with me, then I would have been fine as well. But I did kind of want him to come with me because that very likely was a much bigger challenge than driving back by myself. Because, first of all, he's never seen me drive, he's never been in a car with me. And because my self-esteem is quite low and I'm extremely afraid to make mistakes and I'm extremely afraid to be judged by people, I'm afraid to get things wrong, to not know something. Also, you know, I have quite high social anxiety. Everything is not as bad as it used to be, but there's still factors in me that are very anxious in certain situations, and I'm learning that about myself through the Thrive program as well, how like my self-esteem is super low or very low, and I have quite high social anxiety, but I'm dealing with it. I'm doing so much better. I'm handling it. It's all okay. But anyway, when my friend did decide to come with us, I got so nervous first, and I literally broke out in sweat, and my mind was like sort of racing and thinking, oh no, how embarrassing if I would make a mistake, or if I do make a mistake and can't handle the embarrassment, then I'll never want to drive in his presence again. And like, what if I'm nervous the whole way driving back and that will make me make more mistakes? So, or like, what if he'll judge me or see that I'm actually not such a good driver? So I was telling myself I'm not a good driver, even though I've never made a dramatic mistake in the car. I've never crashed the car. I've driven me and my sister around Spain safely for the last 2 months. Basically, while I was also so anxious, I did also ask myself questions about that. Do I need to be this anxious? Is this a proportionate response? Like, I know that I'm gonna be fine. I know I'm gonna make it if he comes with me. Like, even if a mistake happens and I get totally embarrassed, I'll handle it. It'll pass. Time goes on, blah, blah, blah. So, first I couldn't really calm down, but also I was like, it's fine to be anxious right now. I just hoped that I'd have calmed down once it actually comes to the moment of driving. But I didn't just do nothing about it. I absolutely challenged my thinking, challenged my beliefs, worked on it, and so on. Once I challenged my thinking and noticed I don't have to be nervous, whatever happens is going to happen, and I'll handle it. I'll be fine. I'll work on it. So I got out of that anxious state. And then when that day approached, Thursday, I was actually really excited to take on this challenge. I was so excited to put myself in an uncomfortable position and show myself that I can do it and I can handle it. I was like, I am going to prove to myself that I can do it, and I am confident and I am a good driver, and even if I make mistakes, it doesn't immediately make me a bad driver, and I can handle the embarrassment, and I can, I don't even have to be embarrassed. And my friend, he's so kind, and he's so calm and chill about things, and he doesn't seem like a very judgmental person. And every time I'm around him, I feel very relaxed and very calm, and I like who I am around him. I'm less hard on myself, honestly, when I'm around him. I'm much more relaxed. So once we actually got to the airport, I could feel I was getting nervous, but still I was able to handle it, and I was more excited, much more excited than I was nervous to take on this challenge. And I knew that afterwards I was gonna be so freaking proud of myself for having done this. And I knew that once I made this step, I knew that I'd feel more comfortable driving around him in other situations, and I won't always have this nervous thought in my head like, what if he sees me driving, or like, what if one day I'll have to drive with him in the car and I'll be so nervous or whatever. So just basically get that out of the way, and then just feel confident when driving near him or around him or with him. Basically, I thought about what would I feel like if I, managed this and actually took on this challenge and drove back with him in the car. How would I feel about myself? And I knew I would be so proud of myself. So that is the goal I was trying to achieve. I wasn't focused on the embarrassment or even handling the embarrassment or whatever. It was I'm going to be so proud of myself for having achieved this, having done this, no matter how the actual situation turned out, but just having gone through that situation, having done it. So once we were in the car and driving back, I didn't make a single mistake. I drove back safely. It was a lovely experience. I was so proud of myself. It was lovely having him there. It's always nice hanging out with him. And I got home and I was so proud of myself. I really cheered myself on, and I was like, wow, you did it. Well done. This is a great job. You managed it. You the goal you set for yourself, you did it. Wow, this was such a big thing for me, a really and truly big thing for me. And it really boosted my self-esteem and my confidence. And I just proved to myself, you are good enough. You are able to manage these situations. You drove really well. You handled it and even though I didn't make a mistake, which I wasn't really focused, I was sort of focused on that as well, that I hadn't made a mistake and it's so great. But I was mainly focused on that I took on this challenge and I did it and made it, and I wasn't even nervous. And in that situation, while we were driving, I wasn't focused on, what mistakes could I make? I was totally relaxed and stuff, but I also, in that moment, felt so confident that even if I made mistakes, I feel like I would have handled it easy enough because I felt very confident. But the thing is, I'm not, like right now, I'm trying to figure out how would I have reacted if I made a mistake. Would I still have been this proud of myself? But honestly, I wasn't focused on any potential mistakes I could have made or whatever, because that's part of the Thrive program, not focusing on the negative or whatever, focusing on what you do want to achieve. And I wanted to be proud of myself, and I wanted to just be able to drive with him in the car back home from the airport, which was like an hour drive. So yeah, I achieved that, and I did it, and I was so proud of myself. So yeah, that's another amazing thing that happened this week. So yeah, this was Thursday morning when we drove to and back from the airport. And Thursdays I work in his school for 2 hours. So before I went off to work, I was really anxious for some reason. My entire body was kind of like shaking, and I wasn't very grounded. I wasn't very calm. And at first, my thoughts went into the old thought pattern of like, oh no, what if I can't handle this? And this is so bad. I'm not supposed to be anxious. Why am I anxious? Why the hell am I anxious? There's no need for me to be anxious. Why the hell am I doing this to myself? So like beating myself up and so on, and hating that I'm anxious, and like, what the hell? But like that didn't last for a long time, because then I focused on the other reasons of why I might be feeling this way. And then I noticed we woke up very early this morning, driving to and back from the airport. That's quite, tiring. I'm here alone now for 10 days, needing to drive everywhere by myself, living by myself. That's another reason why I might feel a little anxious. Also, that Amy and Dad are currently on a flight and they haven't landed yet, so that's just a bit like, I just thought that was a little anxiety inducing. I just noticed I was very tired. This was a big challenge that I took on for myself this morning, driving back from the airport with him. So there was many reasons why I could have been anxious, and I noticed that that's okay, it's fine, it's all good. And I noticed how I was like seeing myself driving to work and then crashing into, or like scraping the car because I'm too close to the railing at the side of the road. And I was like, where the hell is that coming from? And why is that making me feel so anxious? And I knew that these thoughts were not actually my own fear or my own thoughts. It was my dad's voice in my head, because he's very focused on, like when we drove over the cat, for example, one of his first questions was, is the car okay? Obviously his very first question was, are we okay? But then the second one was probably, is the car okay? So he's very focused on that, on like money, blah blah blah. It's his problem, not mine. So basically when he asked me that, that's actually when the thoughts in my head arose, and I then got anxious every time I was driving that I was going to like scrape the car, hit the car, crash into something with the car, break it, blah blah blah. So I was like focused on that. And then in this moment when I was so anxious for some reason about scraping the car, I was like, where is that coming from? I wasn't anxious about this before. I'm not actually scared of that. I've driven up and down this mountain for the last 2 months really well, and the car was safe, I was safe, and second of all, the car is not the main priority. If I bang into something, scrape the car, it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of metal. Yes, it costs some money, but it's fine. It's fine. So again, I was observing my thoughts, making my sense of power and control more internal instead of external. So not thinking about if I crash into this or scrape the car, it's gonna be my fault, and dad's gonna be worried and we're gonna have to pay money, blah blah blah. But instead going if something happens, I'm not worried about it. As long as everyone in the car is safe, it's fine. The car's a piece of metal. The car, it's not that big of a deal. I've driven up and down these mountains totally safely. And even if something were to happen, then it happened and I'll handle it. What's the point in worrying about it when it didn't even happen? Everything that I can do to avoid crashing into something, obviously I'm going to do. I'm going to be aware of driving, try not to get distracted, focus on the road, drive slow around corners, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. Anyway, when I arrived there at work, I was still very anxious, and I was pretty anxious for most of the evening, and the classes weren't that great. The students wouldn't really listen to me, and it was just a bit exhausting, but it's fine. But yeah, when I arrived at work, Mario and I actually had a really nice conversation. And by the way, this is not his real name. I'm changing his real name. But we had a nice conversation as well, and that just made me feel more grounded and stuff, and more calm. And after those 2 hours of teaching, I was really excited to go home and just relax. But he asked me if I wanted to revise some German with him, because Mom is teaching him German at the moment. So he asked me if I wanted to revise some of that with him, and we did. And he also taught me a couple of Spanish words, and it was so nice. I don't know, I think it was like an hour and a half that we spent just looking over the German, practicing that together, doing some of the Spanish, and honestly, it was such a nice time. It was so relaxing. I wasn't at all worried about how I was acting, what I was saying, if I'm socially awkward, if I'm anxious right now, or I wasn't worried if we would find something to talk about or not, or if there's going to be awkward silence between us. I didn't think about that at all. I sat there in the chair and everything just flowed, and I was so relaxed, and I was really enjoying myself. We were laughing a lot, and honestly I boosted my own confidence through that. And then I went home smiling, having a great time, going for a shower, having a small dance party for myself, just lying on the couch watching Outer Banks, my all-time favorite show. It's so good. But the 4th season, oh my god, I cried my eyes out at the end. So yeah, I was just so living my life, so excited and happy about being here alone. I fully enjoyed it. I was singing, listening to music, dancing, having the time of my life, feeling so confident and empowered. I can be and do anything and everything. I can achieve everything. Thoughts are just thoughts, they're not facts. Not suddenly, but because I was working on all of this, my thoughts don't feel so heavy anymore. My emotions don't feel so draining anymore. And everything doesn't seem so serious anymore. It's everything is fine. You can manage it. You can absolutely thrive. And, thoughts are just thoughts, and you're going to deal with it. You're going to find the answer. There's no point in worrying. Oh, it was just amazing. It was so good. Yeah, and then the last thing, which wasn't so nice this week, but I also learned something, was a situation between Dad and me. So on Wednesday, I basically had a couple things to do. One of the things was hoovering the house, so I didn't have to do it the next day after coming back from the airport and stuff. So I did that, but I kind of got frustrated because the Hoover wouldn't work, and it took a long time, and I just didn't want to do it, and I still had other things to do, so I was kind of getting frustrated and a bit stressed. But once I was finished hoovering, I wanted to go into my room and work on the Thrive program, which was the next thing I had on my list. But while I was walking up the stairs, Dad was in the bathroom trying to fix the bathroom shelf, because the sink is kind of leaking, and he had to get into the shelf to fix the sink and whatever. So he was sort of, I think, stressed about that as well. So he told me, not in a super rude way, but also not friendly, because he didn't ask. He told me to put on some pasta, please. I don't even know if he said please. So he said, okay, so first of all, put on some pasta, will you? That's the first thing he said. And then he said, and secondly, I need help with this. So when you've done that, I need your help. And in that moment, I was just in my own mind. I was like, no, I have things to do. I really don't have time to do this, and I really don't want to do this right now. Like, it's just gonna, stress me out, and I just don't want to do it. And I was fine with like putting on the pasta. I was like, okay, fine, relax. But helping with the shelf, I was like, no, especially when he's also stressed. I don't like being around him when he's stressed because he doesn't use nice language and it's just not pleasant. So basically I was trying to find a way to tell him I don't really have time and I don't really want to do it. So I said, yeah, I can put on the pasta, but I have other things to do, so I don't really have time to help you with the shelf. And he could probably see my face and my expression was getting more like serious and stressed and annoyed as well, that he told me he needs help without even asking or considering if maybe I don't have time or maybe I have something else planned. So, but in that moment when I kind of said that, he lost it and he was like, yeah, well, you or Amy, one of you has to help me, so you make it out between yourselves, one of you has to help me. And that's when I lost it, and I was like, but okay, not in like a crazy bad way, but I lost my patience and I was like, I'm gonna put on the pasta, but you didn't even ask if I had time or if I had other things planned or what was going on in my day or how I was feeling about it. You just told me what to do. You just told me to put on the pasta and to help you with the shelf. You didn't even ask me. And he always needs to have the last word, push the last button. So the last thing that he said was like, yeah, good, you should put on the pasta, so go put it on. And that's when I absolutely turn into a hateful, angry person. And I went downstairs and I answered back to him, no. Like, just no. And even though I was still going to put on the pasta, I still said no. Because I wasn't putting on the pasta because he told me to. I was putting it on because I felt like I was responsible also for cooking dinner for the three of us. And it's not just his responsibility to do so. That's the reason I put on the pasta, because I felt responsible. But I said no to the fact that he told me to put on the pasta and he pushed me, and I felt like now I didn't have a choice, but I needed to put it on and I had to put it on. He was cornering me, basically making me feel stuck, and this is exactly what he always did in my depression, and there was no way I was able to get out of it. And when I tried to stand up for myself, he would put me down so much that it terrified me, and like I felt like I was being ripped apart. So I felt like I couldn't escape him and he was like holding me captive and whatever. So basically those memories came back, and I was obviously not managing my own thinking in that moment. So it's obviously not his fault for how I reacted. But the thing is, it's still not acceptable the way he talked to me. That's on his part. Absolutely not acceptable. And then okay. So when my thoughts got so hateful and angry, I went down a deep, deep hole for a couple of seconds. And I was like, I hate him. I never want to be near him again. I'm never going to forgive him. I hate him so much. How dare he talk to me like that? And my thoughts even got as dark as like he has emetophobia. So his big fear is like getting ill and getting sick or throwing up. And he's really struggling with that at the moment, or has been for a long time. He's getting better, but still he's very afraid of that. So my thoughts went as dark as like, now I hope he gets sick. I hope he throws up. And I immediately was like, okay, Leona, stop. You're going way too far. This is way too far. At the same time, I didn't fully beat myself up for that, because I was like, I hate him at the moment and I'm allowed to hate him and that's okay. And obviously I knew it wasn't the right thing to wish that upon anyone, but I understood why I was so angry, and for me it was okay to be that angry. It's not like I truly meant it. Like if I really had a proper perspective, I would obviously never actually wish that upon him, because that's his biggest fear basically. But in that moment I meant it because I was so angry and I hated him. Yeah, and then I noticed how I was actually becoming quite afraid of him, afraid to like walk past him in case he would say something or do something to me, which he would have always done in the past, always push further buttons, always drown me. And oh my god, I'm using very like exaggerated language, but honestly, that's the way it felt in the past. It felt this way. To me, this isn't like it doesn't feel exaggerated, because that's what it felt like to me in the past, that he was like drowning me. So nowadays it's different. But yeah, I was really afraid to pass him. And then first of all, when my thoughts went that dark, I was also like, oh my god, the Thrive program is not helping me at all. Like, how stupid. This is like I hate this. I hate my life. I hate my father. I hate absolutely everything. Nothing is helping me. All hope is gone and lost. Like, so stupid. But in that moment, I had lost perspective. I was like in a hole. So I believed these thoughts, and I absolutely thought they were true. And I was like, they're totally valid. Like, obviously. But yeah, once I then challenged my thinking about the fear, that's when I sort of got some perspective back. So I asked myself, like, do I really need to be afraid of him right now? Do I want to be afraid of him right now? And I was like, no, I don't. He talked to me stupidly. I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to have my own opinion. And yeah, I'm not managing my own thinking well right now, but like, I don't want to be afraid of him, and I'm going to walk past him, and whatever he says, I'm going to handle. So like, I'm not going to be afraid. And that's when I sort of felt a little better already, and I got some perspective back. And when I walked past, he didn't say anything to me. And in that moment, I kind of noticed, okay, he's thinking about what he did. Because whenever he goes silent in that sense and doesn't push another button, he is thinking about what he did. So yeah, I went upstairs, and at first I didn't even want to touch or look at the Thrive program book, because I was like, this is not helping me. But second of all, I was also like, I want to be in the right state of like mind before I continue reading, because otherwise I'm not going to really concentrate on that, but just be like focused on what Dad said to me. And like, I then questioned like my brooding thinking style. Like, do I need to brood about this? Do I need to intensely think about this? Do I need to be afraid or constantly on the lookout for anything he could say to me? Do I need to be hyper vigilant? No, I didn't. No. And there was no use for it. It didn't help me in whatever way. It didn't solve any of my problems. No. So I sort of let that go, and then I read on in the Thrive program book, and it helped me. It also boosted my confidence some more. It helped me get out of the hypervigilant state. It helped me with my thinking styles at that current time. And yeah, I felt much better already. But still was a little hypervigilant, I would say, looking out for, oh, what is he going to say? He's walking up the stairs, is he going to talk to me? But not so intense. And whenever those thoughts came, I kind of ignored them. I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, he didn't say anything to me, and I still kind of went out of his way because I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to be near him. I just didn't like him in that moment. So but then he came up to me and he gave me a hug, and he said that he's sorry basically, and he talked like that because he was in a very panicky state. He woke up convinced that he was going to throw up, so obviously that's his biggest fear. blah, blah, blah. And yeah, there's absolutely no excuse for the way he talked to me. It was absolutely wrong. But nevertheless, he obviously noticed that it was in him. It was not my fault for the way he reacted in that moment. In the past, he would have always 100% blamed me. So he noticed it was his thinking styles, it was because he woke up afraid and so on. So he wasn't managing his own thinking in that moment. So yeah, he basically apologized, he gave me a hug, and I could see in his face and the way he was talking that he wasn't holding anything against me, and he genuinely meant it and genuinely, cared. And when he hugged me, I immediately started sobbing, because then this shield that I had sort of drawn up and was hypervigilant about something that could happen to me, like a potential threat, I then noticed how I could let go of that shield, and I was safe, and it was all okay, and I can breathe, and a massive stone just fell off of my chest, and I felt so much lighter, and I was so grateful that he had apologized and he wasn't blaming me, which is my self-esteem, my big obstacle. Always blaming myself, thinking I'm a horrible person, it's all my fault, blah blah blah, and my control issue and so on. So I was so grateful for that moment, and it helped a lot. And even though yes, I'm also learning the Thrive program, I shouldn't be awaiting those moments, or I shouldn't be relying on those moments to feel better, but I can choose to feel better myself. And I knew that also if he wouldn't have apologized to me and would have just ignored the whole thing, I know that at some point I would have been fine, but the apology just helped me feel fine quicker. And yes, I'm working towards it, that no matter what people think of me, if they completely judge me, completely hate me, blame me, whatever, and never apologize to me, that even then I can be fine and I can live on and I can let go. So I'm working towards that. So that was another nice moment. And then he genuinely cared about me, asked if I was okay, if I was gonna be okay here alone as well for 10 days. So yeah, that was very nice and healing, and I'm guessing for him as well, it's a big thing. Another last thing, when I came home from the airport on Thursday, I also called mom and kind of updated her on all of these things and on how my thinking is changing and how I'm actually starting to really like myself and like who I am, which, oh my god, is making me so emotional. My entire life I just could never accept myself, thought I wasn't good enough, hated myself, put myself down, always doubted myself. And even when I did something right or good, I maybe praised myself for 10 seconds, and then I was like, oh, you're getting way too egotistic, come on, or whatever. So, and now I'm like, oh my god, I can actually cherish all these amazing moments and all these challenges that I put on myself, and I managed and I did it, and I'm getting so much better because I am choosing to help myself. I'm getting better because I want to get better, because I am choosing to help myself, and I'm putting in the effort to get better and to help myself. I'm so incredibly proud of myself, and I'm very scared to hold on to the facts that I'm getting better or I've improved my thinking in those moments this week, because I'm afraid that maybe the next moment I'm not going to be able to do that, or I'm not going to be able to help myself the way I did now this past week. And yes, I know I'm still in the learning stage, and I'll learn it and I'll get there at some point, but I'm just afraid to be disappointed and notice, oh my god, it's actually not working at all, and I've fallen down again. And that's where processing my positives every day comes in, because every day I process the positive things that happened that day and also in the past while. And then because of that, I noticed that in those moments it was positive, and I changed and I helped myself, and it got better in that moment. So if I were to kind of fall back a little bit again in the future, it doesn't mean that all hope is lost and it's all done and bad and whatever. It still means that the moments where I did help myself, I helped myself. So the hope isn't lost. And it's just what I am currently thinking then. It's what I am believing in that moment. And that's what then contributes to if I can help myself or not, or if I decide to help myself or not. It's because of what I'm believing, what I'm thinking about. And I can change all of that. That's the good thing. I have a choice. I don't have to brood about it. I don't have to be worried. I don't have to be afraid. I don't blah, blah, blah. No one is making me brood. No one is making me feel afraid. I have a choice. And Mom was so proud of me as well, and she saw how far I've gotten and how these are big things and this is so amazing, and she knew I was going to be able to do it and understand it. And it was, I actually loved that conversation between Mom and I. It was so lovely, both of us like supporting each other, hyping each other up, and like she said at the end as well that this was such a lovely conversation. And yeah, she pointed out as well how like this is such a big thing and I can absolutely be so proud of myself. And so lovely. The newest task that I have to do every day from the Thrive program is ask myself before I get up out of bed, like right away in the morning, ask myself, what sort of day do I want today? And that question already gives you yourself the power and the feeling that you can influence and you can decide the day that you are going to have today. And I absolutely love that, and it's helping me so much. And today, what I decided on is, it was today I want to let go, feel free and at peace. I keep reminding myself of that every couple of minutes, or like whenever I see the note, because we're supposed to write it on a note and have it somewhere where we always see it and can read it. And the thing is, like, I think this is my 5th note, so I've started it 5 days ago. And every time I actually reach that goal. So it's supposed to be a reachable goal, something that you are in charge of and you can influence and you can decide. And the thing is, every single one of us can decide what sort of day we want to have. Even if something happens that's super stressful, for example, today, I can let go. I can let go of that. I can feel free and at peace and manage it while feeling free and at peace. I don't have to get stressed about it. So it just shows me all the choices that I have. And every single day up until now, I reached that goal, and that made me even more proud of myself, built up my self-esteem, built up my confidence. Like, especially the day of driving to the airport, I was like, today I want to be so proud of myself. I can do it. And I was so proud of myself. I could do it. I proved to myself I can do it. I reached this goal, and that made me even more proud of myself. And I was like, this is so great. I'm just thriving and so happy. So yeah, I absolutely love this little trick, and it's amazing. Yeah. And another thing that I might start doing, which I did after my depression as well, whenever I stood at the lake, I always soaked in that moment for basically my future self who may be struggling, and to show her that in this moment I experienced freedom, peace, serenity, like wholeness. Everything was absolutely amazing. I felt like I could do it. I'm managing it. I'm living the best life ever. So I was soaking in those moments for my future self, to help my future self if she ever needs it. And so a tip that my coach gave me is to, whenever I'm having a happy, great moment, to like make a video of that, for example, saying like, I'm so happy, you're gonna manage it. Like, why are you feeling the way you are? Are you beating yourself up again? Stop beating yourself up. It's not helping. You don't need to beat yourself up. You are good enough. You're gonna make it out. You're gonna, whatever. Like, hype yourself, your future self up. Help yourself. Help your future self. Or make notes, writing down all the good things you achieved, all the happy moments. Like, make a note for your future self. And that's a lovely, lovely, lovely tip. So yeah, amazing. And my call again yesterday with my coach was so lovely, and we reflected on all of this as well, basically. And that helped me to, again, boost my confidence, my self-esteem, and I feel like my language as well is changing, becoming more internal, like more powerful internally. And I'm noticing like I can absolutely talk good about myself without being egotistic. And if other people think, oh wow, she's like full of herself, it's their thoughts, because I'm not full of myself. I'm just so proud of myself. And I'm so happy and like with myself. And I'm just noticing in the last video, the last thing I said was like, I'm scared that the next video I'm gonna make, I'm gonna be so like, I don't know, not doing good or whatever. I was scared of that. And now like, hey, I'm here. I'm actually doing very good at the moment. Yeah, obviously I'm still very scared that I'm gonna be so disappointed and have a moment where I fall so deep that I think like, oh my god, I didn't make it out, I didn't make it further, the try program didn't actually help me, now I've fallen further than I have ever been or whatever, which is what happened in my depression. But like still, even if that were to happen, these moments right now are true. The happy moments, they happened and they were happy and they were joyful and they were amazing. So yeah, for the first time in my life, I can actually see how I can be at peace with myself, and I can be absolutely happy with myself and love myself, and I don't have to feel so down and so bad and stuff. So like, yeah, I'm feeling the potential of like living a happy, thriving life, which is where the Thrive program is supposed to bring me. And it can only bring me there when I decide to bring myself there and I decide to help myself. So yeah, it's just so lovely being able to think so differently about myself, about the world, have such a different perspective, which is so much like truer and so much more real. Just seeing what life can be like this way. So yeah, it's just so nice. It's so nice. So yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope this could help someone, some people, and I will see you next time. Yeah, so I was basically, the last thing I was focusing on, I think, was the language I'm using. It's much more internal, more powerful, less like exaggerated language. Like obviously still, sometimes I'm still exaggerating, but like I'm trying to focus more on making the language more powerful and more positive and more like internal, that like I have the power to change things and so on. Yeah, being more uplifting and so on. So yeah, okay, see you next time. Bye.